Um, Meeting called to order at 6:32 p.m. on May 28th. And disclosure pursuant to Section 20 of Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2020, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency and the June 30th, 2027 extension granted by Chapter 22 of the Acts of 2022. This meeting for the town of Bridgewater will be fully remote and accessible to the public through remote participation to the greatest extent possible. No in-person attendance is permitted. Citizens who wish to tune into the meeting may do so via Zoom. Okay, we call to order at 6:32. Real quick, I just have one announcement, and that's for people to, if they can, to attend on June 11th at the Cedar Street Community Center, a meeting on the vision to reality for the downtown area. That's it for comments from me. We have a couple of people on here tonight that we have applications for. I'll leave it up to the committee if they want to do public comments, minutes, financial reports that are all quick, hopefully. Then go to those other two. One will need to be taken out of order. The two things are the First Parish Unitarian Church window replacement. We have Kathy Keenan here representing the church. The other is, it's under new business, that was old business. The other is the Cedar Street Community Center, which is under new business as potential projects. I'll leave it up to the committee if they want to take those two out of order, or if you want to do public comments and minutes and financial reports first.
This is Carlton. Because of the fact that we're going to go out of quorum at around 7, I would suggest we can have a couple of quick public comments, but we need to move it forward, and then we take it out. I would move to take it out of order after that.
Okay, sounds good. Do we have public comments by anybody?
I'm not sure that I should be here today. Dave Frem, I'm on the Bridgewater Disability Commission. Josh had shared with us yesterday at a meeting that he had opened up to you folks that we're looking to do modifications to Marathon Park. I had a few things to read, but you seem to be fairly busy tonight. Maybe that's an understatement. Would I be better on the agenda in next month and talk to you a little bit about it more fully at that point?
Okay, what I would like to see, David, is before the whole application, well, it's actually part of the application process, is an eligibility form to be completed. It's on our website. Josh can help you get it through. Give us, like, do you have an idea of cost or anything like that, what you want done?
No, I don't, but if I need to do that, I can certainly look into it and get you a general idea.
Okay, or if you want to just come to the next meeting, we'll put you on the agenda.
That would be great. I'll get a little more details and get a general cost and so forth.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. I'll see you at the next meeting then.
Okay, David, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Gina, Bill did just join, so we have a quorum if Pat has to step away for a few minutes.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. Okay, any other public comment? We have a few public on here.
I think they're applicants, and David Moore is on, but he's probably listening in for the historic district or historic commission.
Okay, sounds good. Okay.
So I had made a motion to take out of order under FA3 First Parish Church Windows Replacement Project eligibility determination.
Okay.
We need a second.
I'll second it. Harry.
Okay, Carlton, Harry. Okay, and that was Carlton to take both things out of order or just the
I
first?
just did the first parish one.
Okay, great. Okay, we talked about this at,
You need a vote.
oh, that's right. I'm sorry. Any
Sorry.
discussion on taking them out of order? Okay, hearing none. Josh, roll call?
Gina,
Yes.
Carlton,
Yes.
Maureen,
Yes.
Pat,
Yes.
Harry,
Yes.
Bill. Bill's on mute.
Bill, can you unmute yourself?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The motion is
Okay,
approved.
thanks. We gotcha. Okay, we talked about last month, the First Parish Unitarian Church window replacement. We didn't act on it at that point because we wanted the committee to review the three-part test. Josh sent it out and I had sent out a reminder. Hopefully everybody had a chance to look at it. So if we agree tonight, it passes the three-part test. Then we can say that it's eligible or partially eligible, potentially eligible. Did everyone, CPC members, have a chance to look at the three-part test?
So Gina,
Yep.
to help us move forward, I'm just going to read very quickly what they are.
Okay, good.
SJC three-part test was based on a CPA project that it was to replace windows in a historic church that had religious connotations, etc. And their decision was, you have to make a decision and pass the test whether the grant is for maintaining or aiding a nonprofit or religious organizations, and in parentheses, whether the motivating purpose for each grant is to aid the church. Number two, whether the effect of the grants is to substantially aid a nonprofit or religious organization. This element must always be met. Whether the grant will have the effect on substantially aiding the church. And number three, whether the risks meant to be avoided by the anti-aid amendment are implicated by the grant. Parentheses, whether the grant avoids the risk of political or economic abuses, specifically risk that the liberty of conscience would be infringed, two, risk that the public funding would result in entanglement with religion, or three, risk that a public support of religious institution would therein threaten civic harmony. So those are the three pieces that needs to be passed. And the questions are all whether.
Okay, discussion from CPC members? Thoughts on this project to replace the windows?
Well, Gina, I guess I misunderstood and I apologize. I thought that the reason for the delay on the three-part test was to get some sort of clarification from either the commission or the town attorney or something. So we actually determined that it's our role to determine if it meets the three-part test?
Yes.
Yes and no. For the other church, we did pass it by the town attorney, who basically reviewed what we said. We all submitted questions to him, comments, and he reviewed it all and said it was the ultimate decision was up to us. I'm fine taking our comments and sending them to the town attorney just to review.
No, we don't. So Carlton, is it your belief that this meets the three-part test?
Well, there's a couple of reasons I think it's fine, because right now the Historic District Commission holds the historic preservation restriction on the property. It's very clear as to what is allowed. So in the past, we have supported the church, this particular church, a couple of times for elements that were non-religious elements. So I personally, I've looked very closely at it, and I think it basically meets those criteria. Specifically, I don't think, I'm trying to find my notes. I don't think that it is a risk to liberty of conscience that would be infringed. I do not believe there's a risk for public funding resulting in entanglement with religion. And I don't think there's a risk that public support for religious institutions would threaten civic harmony. I say that only because the church has already received CPA funds and a historic preservation restriction is on the building.
Mhm. They have well, I guess it's the same thing. The deed restriction was put in place the other time for the other repair. The thing that, and I saw it right before the meeting started. The one thing, and I'm not saying this, it's not a eligible expense, but the thing that always gets me for these things is that they're applying to us for something that should have done in regular maintenance. I agree. We funded them before for, I think it was the portico. So that's the only thing that I always question. And I know the cost is exorbitant, so it's not something that could be kept up with, or probably not kept up with general maintenance. But that's just always my thought for these applications. I think one thing, well, I guess we have to decide first if it's meets the three-part test. Pat, Harry, Maureen, anybody have thoughts on it?
Well, there's no religious iconography in the windows. They're just plain windows in an historic building.
Right.
And, reviewing what the CPC has done in Boston in the last 15 years or so, they've given money to probably half of the churches in Beacon Hill and the Back Bay and that whole area. And if the windows had religious iconography, then I think that would be an issue. But they're just plain glass windows.
Mm-hmm. Good. Right. And Bill, something to remember about, you referenced all the churches in Boston. Many of those were before this three-part test. And I think the three-part test isn't that old. Carl, do you remember?
Well, I know they've done it recently. They've
okay.
I do know that.
Okay.
Tom, I know that Mayor Walsh said that the CPC was the best thing that ever happened to Boston. They were rather late getting it.
Right. Yeah, right.
So I'm going to read some more here from the town attorney. July 18th, 2018 memo from the town attorney to Bridgewater CPC, quote, as it applies to the Bridgewater Community Preservation Committee, comma, the following should provide guidance. 1, nothing prohibits a religious institution from applying CPC funds. However, the application should be very carefully scrutinized through the lens of the court decision. The CPC should determine if the requesting entity or structure is of substantial historic significance. And 3, if the funds are being requested to offset costs which would otherwise be incurred by the church, it is highly likely that this is an impermissible grant. Any request for funds to repair, renovate, restore any part of the church itself carries which itself carries religious significance, parentheses, stained glass windows, steeple, etc., is impermissible. So based on that previous submission from him, the church can apply. We make the determination. It's of historic significance. That's already been made because there are deed restrictions held there. The funds are being, and it's also in the Macris site. If funds are being requested to offset costs otherwise be incurred, that's a decision of us. And then any request for funds to repair, restore any religious significance is impermissible. So, and I think this window replacement, because there's no religious, I can't say the word iconic information, there's no religious connotations on those windows, it's eligible.
Did you say that a steeple would not be eligible for CPC funds? Is that what you said?
I said that, but we also had made the decision in the past that structural repair of the interior of a steeple could be eligible.
Oh, okay. Because I know we did approve the steeple for the Congregational Church.
Right, but
Right.
they decided not to go forward because of the
Oh, I know
requirement
all
for
about
its,
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Kathy has her hand up.
okay, Kathy,
Thanks. I just wanted to clarify, we are not replacing the windows, they're being repaired. And in terms of being part of normal maintenance, this is something that requires specialized skills because of the fragile nature of the antique glass and the old wood. And it's something that the deterioration has happened over a number of years, and we really only became aware of it in the last 3 years or so, that it needed repairs. And even since then, a couple of the panes have broken and need to be replaced. But most of the cost is removing the windows from the building, bringing them to the shop that will do the restoration. They have to disassemble them, add weather stripping in places that are leaking, replace the caulking that's cracked and drying. And it's a major project that could not have been done as part of normal maintenance of the building. The windows themselves, I believe they're maybe
They're
4 by
huge.
8. They're very large. They're very large, and it requires
Mhm.
staging to take them down. And as I said, specialized skill working with old materials. So I just wanted to clarify, they're not being replaced. The current, except for 2 panes of glass, the rest of it is disassembling, repairing what needs to be repaired, and putting the whole thing back together again, and then putting it in place again. So we would be using a contractor who has that historic restoration experience and skill.
Okay.
So you're not repairing, you're actually restoring those windows, correct?
We're restoring them, really. I mean,
Right.
there are some repair elements that are repair, but they're restoring them with historically accurate materials where possible.
And the guidance from the Community Preservation Coalition specifically indicates don't repair those kind of windows because the older wooden windows are much stronger. The old wood is much better than the new material. But there's a whole piece, I'll get this, there's a whole piece that the coalition has about restoring using the old wood. And I think that's what your intention is.
Yes,
Right.
that's our intention. The only case in which that any of that would be replaced was that if it had deteriorated so much that it couldn't be brought into good function again. And even then, the glass that's being replaced will be replaced by glass from the same period, because Blackburn, who will be doing this, has access to those materials and the skill in using them.
And
Okay.
this whole restoration process is terribly expensive. And this is
Yes.
the oldest church in Bridgewater. It's
Yes.
a real jewel in terms of architecture. I wish
Beautiful church.
I wish it still had the steeple, but we know what happened to that.
Yeah.
And the Paul Revere Bell, which is now in California. But anyway, otherwise, they are all original windows.
They are. And, I would just add that repairing them is important in terms of protecting the interior of the building, which has decorative painting of a non-religious nature that was restored probably 25 or 30 years ago by Blackburn, by the father of the person by Ted Ayers, who is the father of the principal contractor there now. So we don't want any leaks, destroying all the work that's been done on the interior, which was, painting that had been painted over and was discovered when we had the fire in the church and it was being cleaned up. So that was like original to the building that none of us even knew about until we had the fire that exposed some of it.
Okay, thank you for explaining about the maintenance. As I said, that's a question I always have, but you explained it very well.
It's a reasonable question.
The other thing, what was the amount you were looking at?
We have the quote that we have to do the work is a little bit under $80,000.
Mhm.
We have a bequest for $35,000 that was specifically meant to assist in getting the windows done. So I
And I-
believe we requested the balance. It's possible that we would be able to raise or come up with not the full amount, but some amount of the remaining balance.
Mhm.
It's
Okay,
also possible the cost could be slightly lower than the quote if we are able to, if we don't have to spread the work out over a 2-year period, which was what, without significant additional funding, we would have to do. We do plan to go ahead with the first phase of it this summer because we know that we have the resources to cover most of that. But it would be ideal to get the whole project done, at once, or,
Right.
during the period, say from July through October when the weather will change, because the windows have to be removed and we can't do that in the winter time. So, if we have to wait till next spring, if we don't have the money, we'd have to wait till really probably next June to get the second phase of it done.
right. No, that's great. And I think it's great too that you have the bequest. I think it was Frank Yateman.
Yes, it was Frank Aikman.
And that's great. And it shows you said you might fundraise some more. My question, and Carlton, you might be able to answer this. And I know the people doing the work, like Blackburn, I know I was the liaison when they did the portico. Is this something that should be bid? Or can we say it's and I used to do bidding for a job, sole source. Would we say it's a sole source? Does it need to be bid? Carlton, you're muted.
We
don't-
did get another bid, at the time we heard selected Blackburn, which I wasn't involved in the project at that time, so I don't know a whole lot about it. I know that it was less than Blackburn, but it was also not from a contractor who had the right kind of experience to do the project. They weren't really doing the same work. And I don't really know how much it was. I do know that it was at least a little bit less than
the experience,
Blackburn's.
so.
But it's the experience with this particular kind of work, and the importance of having that specialized skill and experience with the old materials that made our decision that this was the best way to go.
Okay,
So to answer Gina's questions, I think it's a private organization. They need to do what they did. It's good to hear that they had a second bid.
okay.
They're requesting it, and I'm going to go back and try to work on the 3 things. I did quite a bit of work on this when this first came in. It's my conclusion, and other people draw your own, is the motivating purpose for the grant application is for historic restoration, preservation, not to advance a religion. That would be my conclusion there. I will also
agree.
say,
Agree with that.
I will also say that under the historic preservation restriction, the Historic District Commission needs to be informed of what you're doing and specifically how you're going to approach it before any work begins. And I suggest before an application appears, if we did.
Okay. I know that they have been informed already. I'm a little unclear on the status of that. I think they can be difficult to get a hold of, the people on that commission, is my understanding.
Right
Chair's
now.
right here.
Excuse me?
The chair
I'm
is
here right now. I'm the chair of the.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know.
Yeah,
So
and I did talk to Debbie
to
Baumgartner.
Debbie, right.
Yes,
Um,
and we had a couple of conversations. So you would have to file an application for a certificate of appropriateness,
Okay,
and then we would have a hearing where we would vote on it, and we would ask the preservationists to come to the meeting and tell us exactly what's going to happen
okay,
and show us any materials that are going to be used. I mean, I think it's pretty straightforward, but we would want to look carefully at the application to ensure that no new materials were going to be used, that it was really and truly a restoration of the windows and not a replacement of the windows. I was
okay.
concerned about that, but I was very relieved in talking with Debbie and then hearing you tonight as well, that it's going to be a full and complete restoration and not a replacement of windows.
Right, yeah. I mean, I guess my understanding, and again, I only got involved in this at this level fairly recently, but I had looked at the restriction, which Eileen provided to me. And my understanding was that the restriction said that repair work did not require a formal application. You know, it sounds like I'm wrong about that, but
You are,
reading the
Yes.
restriction, that's the implication.
Right.
yeah. Well, this is not just a little bit of repair we're talking.
Okay,
You're
yeah,
taking the
okay, I
whole
understand.
window. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're taking all the windows out,
Right.
Right.
Any,
glass
Any-
and things like that. So it's not just a general repair.
Okay.
Right. and
Then my question would be, what kind of timeline does that usually involve?
if we
Well,
get,
as soon as you file an application for a certificate of appropriateness, which is online,
Okay,
and then we'll be notified that it's been submitted, and then we'll schedule a meeting. So we're probably looking at, I'm going to be gone the second half of June, but probably early July, we could do a meeting.
okay.
We could perhaps do one in early June if you get everything
Well,
together.
I'll look at what's required for that, and
Yeah.
because our hope is to get it scheduled with the contractor for July, to begin in
Okay, we
July.
could do it in early June for sure.
So to get,
Okay,
the CPA process is, we vote on the eligibility. If it's eligible, you need to apply for this.
right, I know that.
And our next meeting will be the end of June. The town council will then have to have it on one of their meetings, and I think they only meet once in July. So it would have to be on their, I'm not sure if we can make their calendar in time.
Yeah, I understand that it's going to be a crunch for the application for funding, but as I said earlier, we expect to go ahead with the first phase that we have funding for, even before we know if we're funded to do the full project.
I
Because
see what
it
you're
can be
saying, yeah.
split into two phases. We would probably do the front side of the church first, and then if we get adequate funding to do the full project, then we would do the back side, the side that isn't visible from the street, next, during whenever. And it also depends on Blackburn's schedule as well, as how much work they can fit in when. But they do know that we want to proceed in July. So, but we haven't scheduled an exact date yet. So it sounds like, in terms of the approval from the Historic District Commission, if I get that application in quickly, then that could get approved by the beginning of July.
Mhm.
And then you could have an application in front of us for our June meeting a month from now.
Right.
Right.
I have to, I've looked at the forms and everything that are required for the actual application for funding. And I know it has to be to you 2 weeks before your meeting in June. Is that the case?
if we can accept it later, it's just
Okay.
not like last minute, because
Yeah,
it's,
no, I wouldn't expect that. So as soon as we know we're eligible, I mean, we've been thinking about it already, but
Mhm.
we'll have to like really like work to get it done to meet that June deadline. But
Right.
I mean, think it's doable. I'm not going to do it all by myself. I have a couple other people who are willing to do pieces of
Mhm.
it. So, um,
I would say that you could work on the CPC application concurrent with your
waiting
HR.
the
Yeah,
historic district. Yeah.
right. And by the
Okay.
time we
That's what it
create-
sounds like. And I'll just look, you said the historic district, whatever, I'm sorry if I'm getting the terminology wrong, that application is online.
Yes, it's a certificate of appropriateness is
Okay.
the
Okay.
form, and it's under our link, the Historic District Commission. We will be very interested in the source of the glass. I can tell you that. And
Okay.
it might be a good idea to check with the
I'll check with
Massachusetts.
Blackbourne.
Yes,
I've checked with
where
Blackburn.
that's coming from. Is it truly early 19th century glass? That will be important because
Okay.
if it isn't, it's going to look very different from the other
Right, we
paint.
know that. We know
Yeah,
that. And
and that will be
they
different.
assured us that they did have access to material like that,
Yeah,
but I'd have to get the specifics from them.
yeah.
I'm new to this work, so
Unfortunately, it costs a lot of that glass is very dear, as
I'm
you can.
sure it is, and I'm sure
Yes.
that's why one of the reasons this is so expensive.
Yes.
Although fortunately, it's only 2 panes that
Yeah.
out of many that need to be
Yeah.
actually replaced.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, any other discussion? Harry, Maureen, thoughts on it?
All my questions have been answered. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Great. Maureen?
There we go. Sorry, I couldn't get it off
That's okay.
speaker. Get it on speaker. Yeah, I'm kind of with Harry. I was going to say no, but now that I hear all the details and understand it a lot better, that I would be I'll be agreeable to have this done.
Okay,
Would it?
great, thank you. I'll,
Well, thank you for the opportunity to be here to provide answers and clarification. So, and
Thank
we
you.
appreciate being considered for it.
yes, I'll entertain a motion to accept the eligibility form as eligible.
So moved.
Okay.
Second it.
Bill, who did a second?
Me,
Maureen?
Maureen. Yes.
Okay, discussion? If we didn't already wear out discussion.
Yeah.
Okay, hearing none. Josh, roll call?
Gina,
Yes.
Carlton,
Yes.
Maureen,
Yes.
Pat.
Pat's
Pat,
off.
okay.
Okay, Pat, that's up.
Harry,
Yes.
Bill.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Great, thank you. Yep, Kathy, just reach out to us if you
I will.
need
Thank
anything.
you.
Okay, and thank you for being here.
Oh, you're welcome. Right.
Great,
Goodbye.
bye.
Thank you for taking us early.
Okay. You're welcome.
can we-
Okay,
I can't remember the motion to take, did we take the Cedar Street,
no, you just did that one. The
the
church.
Cedar Street?
Okay, so you wanted motion to take Cedar Street out of order?
So moved.
No, you're, okay, so you moved it second to take the Cedar Street out?
I'll
Out of
second it.
Harry.
Yeah, right, great. Okay, and the reason we're moving it out of order is for the people that are here to explain their things. They're not sitting through our whole meeting, but you're welcome to. You're all welcome to stay as long as you want.
So my question is, did everybody get a chance to read the
But
application? I know it came in late.
we need to vote on taking it out of order.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Discussion for out of order? Okay, I think I just added my thing. Josh, roll call?
Gina,
Yes.
Carlton,
Yes.
Harry,
Yes.
Maureen,
Yes.
Bill.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion is approved.
Okay, great. Carlton, go ahead.
I'm assuming just to raise hand, did everybody get a chance to read the eligibility form?
I did.
Okay, sounds like everybody did. I had a couple of questions on it, and a couple of comments. Not included in that eligibility form is the fact that that building was built in 1833. It's on the MACRA site, but it doesn't have a determination of what it belongs. So one of the things we would have to do if we say this is eligible is to receive a letter from the Historic Commission that it is a building that's significant to the history, culture, et cetera, of the town, in order to move an application forward. So that's one point I would make. The other one that I would make is I'm not totally clear on exactly what is the eligibility is asking for. There's some things listed, but maybe Mr. Hogan can talk to us, who submitted it, could talk to us a little bit more about what he envisions for that basement. And then the other thing is, we just received a signed letter from the Methodist Church Board President indicating that they're behind this project. The Methodist Church owns that property is what I understand, but maybe there's some updates.
Hey everyone, can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Hey,
Thank you
thanks.
for being here.
Of course. My name is Tommy Hogan. I'm my son's little league baseball practice right now. Just kind of multitasking, but I've been listening. And so, Carlton, thank you. And we've had some conversation previous to this. We, as I think many of you know, are leasing the Cedar Street Community Center, the parish hall that the Bridgewater United Methodist Church owns. We're leasing it exclusively from them and running it as a community center. And so it's been wonderful. But our heart really is to kind of expand our desire to serve the youth of our community. And we have a great space underneath, in the lower level of the community center that we are looking to see if we could turn into a youth center, a space for teens and young people to be able to use on a consistent basis and have programs and things run out of that. And so we were just starting to explore the scope of what a project like this would entail. And we've hired a contractor, Elias Basila, who is local, a veteran, and is very excited about this project and is putting some numbers together for us. In the process of getting a quote from him, we've discovered some water damage in this basement, and that the back wall of this of the building is unstable. I mean, it's not to the point where it's unsafe, but if any sort of renovation into the interior of the building, we would want to ensure the long-term integrity and stability of it. And so they've determined that that back wall needs to be repaired. It's field stone on 3 walls, and on the back wall, lower foundation, it's brick, and it's where we're getting water damage. And so it would require some excavation and resetting or replacing that portion of the foundation with something that's going to keep the building stable for the long term. And so in addition to that, we want to renovate the space to create a rec space for the youth. So we're just trying to see if it's eligible and have a conversation. We've talked with the owners of the building, and they are fine with us exploring this option. I know they've applied before for CPA money, but decided not to take that. They understand there would be a deed restriction, things like that. And we are in talks with them Two, with transferring ownership of the building, ultimately of the property, so including the church as well as the parish hall, which I'm referring to at some point in the near future. So that's kind of a quick background.
Great, thank you. David Moore, can you comment on what Carlton said about on the Macpherson Historic Building? You're muted, David. There you go.
I see no problem with the Historical Commission discussing this at the next meeting and writing a letter of support for the work.
Okay, great, thank you. I think, Tommy, first, thank you for coming. Thank you for explaining. I think before, and I'll leave it up to the committee if you want to vote on the eligibility tonight, but I would like to see more specifics. I know you talked about the wall. I would like to see more specifics on, I know you listed maybe four items, more specific, like you say, create our, and I'm ad-libbing for this because I don't have the form right here. I read it right before the meeting. Making like a recreational area, like what would that entail? Is it you're looking to buy, you know, a foosball table or just renovate the area, put up divider walls? I'd like to see more details about what's being done.
Sure. Yep, I can absolutely provide that in much more detail. We have some 3D renderings of kind of what's anticipated, but really, because of the water damage, the basement needs to be fully gutted and renovated. So floors, walls, ceiling, and then the repair to the back foundation. But yes, it would be a rec space, so it would have tables and couches and, you know, some gaming tables. There's a kitchen down there we want to repair, but yeah, a rec space that would be available for after school and weekends and evenings and things along those lines.
Okay, now to have, and somebody else can jump into if I'm not entirely clear on what I'm saying. Like you said, got the whole basement now, and you know about the deed restriction, but it would have to be original, like what the walls were originally and the flooring originally, to go back to the historic building. Am I correct in that?
I'm not, I think the operative word, I'm jumping in here, I think the operative word there is rehabilitate.
Right.
So I think you would need to adhere to the standards that the federal government puts out as a historic building. So those are some of the things you need to consider, and I'm not sure where that takes us. But that's one of my understandings. The other one, Tommy, use your first name, but because I know you as Tommy. You had mentioned something about accessible entrance, handicap accessibility for the basement. Is that still on the table?
Certainly. Yeah. So we've, when we took over the space a couple years ago, we built a handicap ramp to get onto the main level. But we certainly would want to make the basement accessible as well. So part of the renovation would be to have a ramp go down and into the building to make it accessible for, yeah, that is the plan.
So the eligibility form did not mention that, which is something I think we need to, you've clarified it, but I think we probably need to get that in writing. That's one of the intentions.
Right. I don't think that, if I remember right, the eligibility form didn't mention the water damage either.
No.
No.
So,
I don't
Okay.
think so.
I can certainly update.
great.
Can I ask also, Tommy, Maureen, how much you asked for $250,000. How much is it gonna cost? Do you have an estimate to do all that repair you're talking about?
Yeah, so he's working on that. We're waiting. We have a wonderful local architect that's volunteering his time, also a code consultant, who happens to be the town building inspector for Rainham, who lives locally. And so we're trying to get those renderings so that we can get a real hard number. The foundation and water repair is probably in the $120,000 just in and of itself, just to resupport the building. And then there would be additional costs for the interior renovation. So I would have on an application, if deemed eligible, a full breakdown of what that all would be.
Great. Now, you know that, like you mentioned, furnishings, couches, game tables, those are not eligible.
Understood.
Or-
Yep. No, we plan on
Okay,
raising
just to make that
money
clear.
as well. But for those other additional, expenses.
Okay, and
Was this building originally the Methodist Church, David? What was it used for originally?
I believe, it was originally the Swedenborgen Church.
Correct.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
The building-
it was the first one in the country, I was told, in 1833, and then I think the Methodist purchased it from them in about 1875,
Uh-huh.
and then met there till they built the building on the corner in 1913.
I looked at the Macris history, and that's consistent. It was built by the Swedenborg organization in 1833. The Methodist Church at some point rented the property, and at some point they purchased the property, as Tommy has said, and they've owned it since the late 1800s.
Wasn't it the Coles Center, or is this is the one on Cedar
Right.
Street?
Eldon
It is.
Cole.
Eldon Cole, yes. He must have given some money and it was named in his honor. Would that continue? How does that work? Are buildings that are named after someone later on, can that be changed? Or that maybe not be a question for us. I'm just kind of thinking out loud. Would the interior be restored as it was originally, or is it going to be totally redone to make it a youth center?
So
And what's been done in the interior so far?
yeah, I mean, they've made a lot of changes over the years. I have pictures of the interior of the building from the 1800s. And so they've made some pretty significant changes on the main level since then. We've really only kind of cleaned it up, painted it. We added the handicap ramp on the main level. The basement was a number of things over the years. And most recently, the active use was that I understand was a daycare or preschool, but that was even 20, 30 years ago. So it's been vacant. The basement has not really been usable for a couple of decades, to my understanding, but is substantial space, good ceiling height, and I would think to make it functional, it would. I don't know to what historic, preservation from a use, base, and I don't know about that. We didn't have that intention. Our thinking is we would repair it, make it watertight, and rebuild with walls and more from a modern perspective that's functional and accessible. But I don't exactly how that would be done.
Yeah, I don't know how we can reconcile historic preservation with refitting the interior of the building.
Right.
That is a bit of a contradiction, I think. And have we ever, Carlton and Gina, you're veterans of the CPC, have we ever funded a project like this in the past?
Well, I will tell you what did happen, because it was under a preservation restriction, but the Memorial Library, CPA funded the accessibility ramps to that building, and town money funded the interior changes. And there were changes that the Mass Historic allowed, specifically to put an elevator in and to change the stairway to the basement. That was allowed by Mass Historic under a major. So there is precedent for a historic building undergoing some significant changes, but it was under a historic preservation deed restriction.
I remember those meetings, but that's a good point. You're right about that, of course.
But-
Yeah.
And I would suggest that maybe Tommy reach out to Mass Historic and ask them about the building. It's not listed. You have to go through this letter that we talked about, but ask them about what their thinking is in terms of the reuse, restoration, and I call it rehabilitation. One of the key words in CPA is rehabilitate. So
Yeah.
I don't know if rehabilitate means exactly as it was or just make it useful.
I have a question. Is it possible that the funds could be used to rehabilitate the foundation and that area that needs work? And then Tommy can come up with other money to redo the inside, perhaps?
That's
Is
a
that,
good point.
can you split it like that?
Yeah, if they have the funding, and that's what the memorial building did. As Captain said, we funded the handicap accessibility. The town paid the rest. The town paid for the actual restoration or rehabilitation of the inside.
Yeah, multiple funding can be used on any historic building, just like we just talked about with the
Yeah.
First Church.
Right.
I
And
don't
it's
remember
encouraged.
every detail about the building, but I seem to recall that the exterior is in pretty sad shape and that would need restoration. How is the exterior, Mr. Hogan? Is it going to need a lot of restoration? And what about the windows and all of that?
It's it was quite an eyesore for a while, and then the church did repaint and fix much of the siding that was on there. So it looks, in my opinion, from what it used to look like, a million times better, and isn't the eyesore it used to be. So but the steeple, there is what used to be a steeple. There's the base of the steeple that, if you look at that, that's what the whole building looked like. They just ran out of money to kind of fix that piece of it. But from exterior perspective, the windows are in pretty decent shape. There's some cracked glass. There's single pane windows. There are some storm windows that they put in front with the, keeping the keep it weather tight as best they can. But overall, it's not terrible.
Mhm. Okay, any other questions or comments?
Just one more thing, I think because the town attorney had indicated any nonprofit, and this is a nonprofit that's applying for the funds, we need to go through the 3-part test.
Right.
And I don't think we've had time to think about it, to be honest with you.
Okay, Tommy, what are you looking at for a timetable?
We understand that this is a process and that this is going to be a big project that's going to take some time, and so we're not in a big rush to kind of get on this right away. But we would like, we're taking the steps now to see, one, if it's eligible, and then, what do we need to do? What you need, and so it's not we're not like in a super rush. We would love to keep things moving though, as best we can.
Right.
Looks like you have a baseball player behind you.
Yeah, I was gonna say you have a
Yeah.
shadow.
Practice is over. That's Brendan. He's my so
It's your little protege.
Gina, based on this, I'd like to not take action on it tonight because we've asked for some additional information. We've asked for the letter from the Historic Commission. Maybe we could get that in place for the next and meet in, and then since it's not an urgent project, that we postpone this to decide on the next meeting.
Yep.
I will make that motion.
Okay. Do we have a second?
David's got his hand up.
Okay, Maureen, discussion on that?
Gina, David had his hand up.
Oh, David, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, not so much on motion. I just wanted to suggest to Tommy, knowing that you've got Bob Iafredi working with you, he's an excellent resource and he'll do well by you. But what I found in some of the buildings in the center of town, the water table in the center of town is not very high. So over the years, grass and lawns and everything build up around the building, and they no longer direct the runoff away from the building. So don't forget to look into that, because if that building was built below the water table, it wouldn't have survived as long as it has. So I think take a real good look at the grading and run the surface water away.
Yep, that is, we have had that conversation, and that will be absolutely to keep it safe from water for a long time moving forward.
Thank you.
Sorry to interrupt your motion, Gina.
Nope, that's fine, David. That's a good point. We like all the input we can get on these things. Okay, discussion on the motion to hold off to the next meeting.
Contingent upon receiving additional information.
Right, that's what I was just gonna say, Tommy, if you can work on, I feel like I know you, Tommy. If you can work on doing a revised eligibility that includes the water damage, more breaks down what Bob gives you for pricing for each element, that'll help us a lot to make a decision. So,
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
okay, Josh, roll call if there's no other discussion. Harry, Maureen. Okay, Josh, roll call.
Gina,
Yes.
Carlton,
Yes.
Maureen,
Yes.
Yes.
Harry, Bill.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Tommy. Okay, back to where we were. Approval of minutes, back to item D from April 29th. That was a quick meeting, short minutes. Does everybody have a chance to read them? Can everybody speak at once? Okay. Motion to approve if people have read them.
I'll move.
Who is that, Carlton?
Carlton.
Okay. A second?
Harry.
Okay, thank you, Harry. Discussion? Okay, roll call. Josh?
Gina,
Yes.
Carlton,
Yes.
Maureen.
I wasn't at the meeting. I was away. Does it matter?
You can
Yeah.
still vote.
Okay, yep, sure.
Harry,
Yes.
Bill.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay, great. Next, review of the financial reports. One thing to say for that, we did submit our budget for fiscal 26, and that was voted on at the last council meeting, and they approved it. So that's set. Excuse me. Financial reports Again, we're way ahead on anticipated revenue for the taxes in. They estimated the real estate surcharge was estimated for 875,000. Its income, we're up to 952,000. So we're roughly 77,000 more. And what that 875 is just what the town finance director estimates. This year we actually upped it some. Interest isn't included in the original estimate, and we've gotten quite a bit for that. So good shape. We have a few projects that will be closed out the end of the fiscal year that we voted to close. So that'll put more money into our coffers. So right now, if you had looked at the unofficial balance sheet as of April 30th, it shows we have a 3.9 million, but of that 1.5 is already committed. So we'll have roughly 2.4 million.
$2,368,350 that can be distributed amongst those categories.
I was close to doing 2.4 in my head,
You
but
did a
thank
good
you for
job.
the exact.
Yeah, and I will point out the Edson book will be on the next, that project didn't hit the April report, but it'll be on there for the next meeting.
Right, as an encumbrance, as a project. Great.
I assume if the override passes, we would get even a higher allocation for the next fiscal years. I'm sure that would be the case.
No,
Correct.
that's not relevant.
No, it isn't.
Our surcharge, it's all based on taxes. It could be that, but it's based on the assessed value of a property, and it's a 2% surcharge after the first $100,000 of assessed value. So
Wow.
a $500,000 assessment, the surcharge is on 400,000.
Right.
So
When the properties are reevaluated, however, and my understanding is that's going to happen in the next
that may well be.
then that will probably affect our bottom line positively.
Right. We had a conversation with Lori Guarini on some of this, and typically we're running between 10 and 15%. Our estimate for income is 10 to 15% lower than the actuals for surcharge. So yeah, we potentially are in for more funds. This year we estimated, the state said 15.9%. So I expect we may get more depending on the fees filing for the CPA trust. But yes, and the other thing is there has been some rumblings about people thinking the CPA could go down in terms of its surcharge or even be eliminated. I don't have any firm things on it, but I did have the Lori Guarini, the director of the finance department, put together information on what CPA surcharges are for a lower level assessment, the mid-level assessment, and a high-level assessment. And she provided that to me. And basically, you know, it's not that much. For example, my house, I think it's valued at about 550 or property, and I think my income is, my taxes on that surcharge is about 169, something like that per year.
One thing.
Somebody said 500, you have to do 500 or something. And to get that level of surcharge funds, you'd have to have an assessed value of over $2 million.
Okay, I think, because I figured this wrong too on my own. I looked at, you know, how you get the four separate bills for the year, and it had the amount on each one. So I just multiplied it times 4, which put me up over $300 when really it's under 100. And I think that's what people are doing, because I'm hearing comments outside of here. I'm reading comments on Facebook that people are paying $500-600 for the CPA surcharge. I think my thought is they're doing like I did. I multiplied it ×4 when it's not. So if you hear from people that say tell you they paid so much, just explain to them, just clarify. And another thing Carlton mentioned, and I've heard rumblings for this, and I hope it's just rumblings, that some people want to see it eliminated completely. One thing to note, if it is eliminated completely, we still have 2 bonds out there. The Keith Homestead matures next year, and that's only 47,000 left to it, and then the interest another 1,200. The Academy building, we still have another 11 years on it, 2036, and that's 240,000. And the town, if CPA is eliminated, that plus the interest on that, roughly 86,000, would have to be covered by the town out of the general budget. So that's something that people that want to see it lessened or eliminated should realize too.
That's very good information to know, especially about the set amount annually that's not multiplied by 4. That's
Right.
great. I hope you go on Facebook and clarify that.
I'm one of these days.
Because that's an excellent point. Has, to anyone's knowledge, has a town ever rescinded the passage of CPA?
Yeah.
2, I think it was 2 were
Two.
for this
two.
year. It was on their ballot. I'm not
2
sure.
have rescinded, and there's a couple that are considering it.
Oh,
So let me just give you a number. Bridgewater residential average assessment, $593,992. That's the average. The CPA surcharge for that one is $116 a year.
that's very modest.
Right. Right. And people need to look at all that we've done too for the
Yeah.
town, preserve the town.
Yeah.
One more thing to note on what we have is our unofficial balance. We haven't received, and we'll talk more about styles and how when we get to updates, but we haven't received the grant from them, which is close to 480,000. So that will get deposited back into our account when it's received. It's a reimbursable grant. The other thing, no, it did make it, scratch that. Forget I said the other thing. Okay, so that's where we stand money-wise. We're in great shape, but as you can see, we have a couple of big applications before us to act on. Any questions or discussion further on the financial reports? Okay, none. Moving on. Item FA1, the multicultural, I can't talk, excuse me. Multifunctional fields at the middle school. We approved it. We're still waiting for the application. The group that put it in, actually Parks and Recreation, is working on getting prices and things. Storage building at Legion Field. We sent back the eligibility form for more information, and we're still waiting for that. We haven't received it yet. We took the First Parish Church out of order. Project updates, Hanson's Farm. Carlton, do you want to?
Yeah, I, not to step on Harry's things, but the Conservation Commission accepted this conservation restriction on the property. And that is pretty much done. I think the Hansons told me they'd signed off on that. I'm trying to think through the details. So there are a couple of things left. The CPC match money. A couple of invoices have been paid to Wildlands Trust for their stewardship piece. The engineer that's looking at the environmental piece, that money the invoice is due shortly on that. That report's due shortly. And today I sent Gina and I worked on, and I worked with the Hansons. We sent because we're paying for signage, we sent scope to the town to submit for contractors to bid on a major sign that is about the conservation. And then because there's two potential trailheads where we thought that, and I've talked with the Hansons and they've approved some language on it. They've asked for certain language on the signs. But basically we're looking to have two signs, one at each of the trailheads in the property. So that's a piece that's a work in progress. And Harry, you can answer me a question for me. When the Conservation Commission looked at this, were there any discussions or decisions regarding any kind of bridges, bog bridges over wetlands areas? If not, I think we have to go back on that, but I don't know if the Conservation Commission voted on it.
I don't remember anything about bog bridges, but you'd have to check.
Thank you. That's what I thought. But I know that if there is to be some bridge built, something like that, the CPA funding request included materials for that. And if that's the case, I think the town may have to come back to get approval. But that's a step down the road. Thank you.
Great. We also in Calton, you may have just said this, as Calton said, we're working on signs and things. It does need to go out to bid.
Yes, I just mentioned that.
Okay, I thought you did, and I turned to.
No, I got an email that basically they've sent it to two companies, and if it comes back higher, they'll have to send it to a third. But that's a work in progress.
Okay, good, thank you. I thought you had, but I looked down at the agenda and missed it.
Okay.
Okay, anything, questions, comments, on Hanson's Farm? Okay, I for one can't wait to see the trails, everything set, and the nice sign up there. Okay, Styles and Hart improvements, it's still, that landlocked piece of property is still an issue. I guess it's up to the council, town council, on what they want to do about it. Carlton and I met, maybe 3-4 weeks ago with Pat Brennan, who's the engineer, and he was going to give us an updated list of what still needs to be done. And we thought that it might need to be rebid because the bid was closed out, but I want to look into that more because I don't think it should have been closed out. CPC never said to close it out. So we're
Gina, if I could interrupt, please.
Sure.
The other thing that I think is holding up the state reimbursement is the signage in the property needs to be finalized, and that type of stuff go forward. The state wants to see what the signs look like, and that's up to Parks and Rec and whoever else.
right. And like I said, for the financial part, I believe it's close to 480,000 that would be put in, maybe less, I don't, for the exact amount. So that's still a work in progress. Hopefully it's done soon. Great comments on the trails, people using them. Okay, Hemlock Drive, if anybody has comments on any of this, jump right in. Hemlock Drive window replacement.
Yeah, I just got an update on that. They've billed us and we paid 51,000 towards the design work that we funded. But they also, the contractor has gone through a process of putting a mock-up of the windows that they're replacing, restoring. That has been done. They're getting the windows ordered now. And the note I got today said basically they expect to have those in the next month and start working on the installation and that kind of thing. And so everybody knows there's another grant that's paying for a lot of this work. So.
Good. Okay, Parthenon Freeze, I believe they're just waiting to get the schedule from the people to shore up the walls to make them
No,
safe.
we need to get the schedule to act. Yeah, shore up the
Right.
walls. I thought it was
Right.
installed. My bad. I'm sorry.
Right, no, that's okay. And once that's done, it can, they can be installed, the freeze.
Thank you.
Okay, next, Samuel Edson book. I submitted to Josh to pay, for the book itself. We got the W-9 from, Richard Thorner, who is the one selling the book. And Josh, that was submitted, right?
Yeah,
Okay, good.
yeah, I think it'll go out next week. I think
Okay.
that's because we had the holiday.
Right.
So yeah, that should be going on next week.
Okay, great. Thank you. And as that's for the purchase of the book, that was 5,500. The part for rehabbing the book, restoring the book, and probably rehabilitating the book, restoring the book.
Yes, it's in process of restoration and digitization now.
Okay, great. That's it for the Edson book. Townhouse Interior Historical Assessment. Those funds we voted as admin funds. The work we asked for a bid to be put out to, and that wasn't going to be done this fiscal year. But because we voted a formal bid, a formal motion and vote in this fiscal year, we can carry it over, encumber it to be done in fiscal 26, and the finance department will send out a form to fill out, and that's usually done in late June. So we're keeping track of that too. Okay, C, project updates, completed projects, Broad Street Properties. That was
The CR is held by the Wildlands Trust. And I've had a couple of communications asking what the status is, and they basically said the state backup in getting these things done is still in play, and so they haven't heard back. And until we get the actual CR and filings, then we'll get a final report.
Good, thank you. Summer Street Mobile Station, it was pending the CR and front report. Carlton had a discussion with Stuart Saginaw from the coalition. Stuart's concern was that we paid for the building and it should have come down, but in actuality, the town paid for the building, we paid for the property. So we just have to make sure that CR references that.
And the other thing is the town is, because the town has a park grant for that, and I think that'll be talked about at that June 11th downtown meeting at the Cedar Center. But that conservation restriction cannot be held by the town. It has to be held by an independent organization that actually can hold, manage property, that kind of thing. And I think I've mentioned I belong to the Flaherty Little Park next door is owned by the Bridgewater Improvement Association. The association actually has the authority to hold a CR. And so that could be possible, but we have to talk about that a lot more. That's just FYI.
Okay. Rebinding of the death records book. Josh, I think you did that final report and we just have to approve it. I need to sign it.
Yep, we just need a signature on that one.
Okay, good. And then we'll vote on that at the next meeting.
Yeah.
Any questions or comments on any of the completed projects? Okay, item D, potential new projects. the first three are Parks and Recreation, Jenny Leonard Park, basketball courts, study of recreational land options for Legion and Scotland Field. They're all just potential projects. Parks and Rec is looking into it and prioritizing what they want done. So those are still just potential projects. Restoration of the fire department's Osamaquin hand pump truck. I've been in communication with the former chief, Mike McDermott, about this. And we actually have it down as new business, the second part of this. They were looking for funds. They were getting a quote for restoration of it, and that's still pending. We don't have the eligibility or anything. Open space plan. That was, I believe, Carlton, you said that was on the council.
Maybe Maureen knows. Let's ask Maureen. Do you know what happened there?
I understand the money has come through, the grants come through, but that's through, I have some back information, you know, from a private concern, but I don't know that it's been officially announced by the town or not, but I know it was announced by somebody in the state. So I was told about it,
I
but
believe it's gone before the town council for acceptance.
it is going before them?
I
Okay,
think it went before them. I think they vote on it at the end of June. If my recollection serves me right.
okay. I haven't been around, so I don't know how that all went. So, and also we haven't had a meeting. I don't know that we had a meeting for open space.
Okay, good. Thank you for the update.
So the good news there is we're not going to have to come up with admin money to fund it. That's
Right.
good.
And as it turned out anyhow, if I have it right, maybe Josh, I think he told us that we can put this open space with what you just did for the whole town. You know,
Oh, the CPC,
yeah,
our plan.
your plan, yeah. We can kind of get on the backside of that and join in with you.
Right. Didn't the state also say because of the backlog, it's extended what
Yeah.
you have now for 3 years?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, any comments on any of those? Okay. Item G, new business, potential new projects. We already talked about Cedar Street Community Center. The shipping cost, item 2, shipping costs for your Osamaquin hand pump. In speaking to Chief McDermott, in order for them to get a price to restore it or rehab it, they have to send it to a place in Maryland, maybe Pennsylvania. And a thought was that possibly CPC could pay for shipping to ship it down there and pay it out of our admin funds. And because it's just under new business, we really can't take a vote tonight. But that's just a thought out there as a potential project that we take it out of admin funds. And it would be shipped by a company in Brockton that they've shipped things through before.
How much would that cost?
I don't have a price for that yet. Chief McDermott was going to look into it and get back to me. So I'll follow up with him again if I don't hear from him soon. Okay, just a thought for that to keep in the back of your mind. And if we approve it at our next meeting, which I believe is June 25th, obviously they won't have it shipped by then, but we could also, as with our townhouse interior assessment, we can encumber the funds to be used in the next fiscal year. Good question though, Maureen, for how much. We talked about David Frim at the beginning. Came on for public comments and he's going to get back to us. What has come to us from Josh, who was at their meeting this week, was they're looking, and David mentioned it too, handicap accessibility at Marathon Park. And I believe this is weird. I remember the date for this. It was December 23 that the coalition newsletter, and that just sticks in my mind for weird reasons. The coalition newsletter referenced that they were looking, that they were promoting playgrounds and specifically handicap accessible playgrounds. So when that comes to us, that's something to remember too, the coalition newsletter. Okay. Any comments on those three? Or two, because we already voted on one. Okay. Anything to be brought up by the committee? Or just a thought for our next meeting about a topic?
David's asking.
David?
Hi, it's been neat being here. It brings back a lot of memories. It's been a long time since I've sat in on as a member of this committee. One question, isn't the Historical Commission a voting member of the CPC?
Yes. Are you taking Jeff's spot? that?
Probably for the foreseeable future. His son has joined a club and it meets at the same time. So he won't be here for a while.
Mm-hmm.
David, sorry to interrupt. You'll just need to send me an email so that you can be appointed.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't
Sure.
have to go, it doesn't have to go through the council or anything because you're a committee member that's named in our organizing documents. So it's just a matter of
Yeah.
sending it to Josh so the town manager can say, yep, he's a member.
Yep.
I will do that.
Okay.
Another potential project, I know I haven't sent you anything in writing, but that's going to be coming probably before the next meeting. I've been doing a lot of research with a professor out in Michigan. He's doing a lot of research on the Titicut Foundry, the state Titicut Foundry. And I think it would be really neat to put a sign down there for the 250th anniversary of the founding of the state foundry in Titicut. Paul Revere came out and studied there, Hugh Orr, and there's a whole bunch of really neat things that happened there. So you'll have a letter on that for the next meeting.
David, is that near the Sturtevant Pond in that area?
Sturtevant's Pond was the mill pond supplying power for the foundry.
Oh,
And South Street goes over the dam.
Okay, where was the foundry, David?
As you're going over the dams, Sturtevant's Pond would be on your right-hand side. The foundry would have been on the left-hand side.
Okay. So just across the street from the pond.
Right. Yep.
Never knew that.
Yeah. Well, it'll be a lot of, that's probably one of the oldest foundries in town. It goes back to 1707.
Wow.
Just a little newer than the Perkins Foundry.
Okay.
Down at High Street. So
Wow.
we'd like to put a plaque down there to call attention to it.
Okay. Now, wasn't there, I want to say State Representative Gallagher had mentioned this to me, that there's grants through the state for historical preservation, and that each town could apply for a grant. I'll follow that up with the representative, but
I will do that.
that would be a perfect project for that. I'm not sure if there was a deadline. He had mentioned it to me a while back. But I'll follow up, and if you want to question him too on it, because that would, to me, that would be a perfect project.
Yeah. Thank you.
But we can follow up and come back to well, you'll be back at our next meeting because you're a new member. Welcome.
I have a question for David. Is there anything left of the structure of the foundry there, or is
No.
that obliterated?
No, it pretty much ceased as a foundry before 1800, but there were a number of businesses that ran there. But what I think is interesting is it ran in conjunction with Hugh Orr's mill in East Bridgewater. That mill burned in about 1820, and fortunately, there's still a lot of the original dry laid stonework for that foundry that's very visible. I've talked to East Bridgewater Historical Commission to possibly work a joint project. They don't have CPC over there, but possibly a joint project between the two towns so they can recognize Orr's work in East Bridgewater and in Bridgewater.
That's great. Thank you. Okay, look forward to seeing that, more information on it. Okay, questions for David on that? Anyone? Okay. Committee liaison reports.
No,
Park and
Gina,
Rec.
I have a new project.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
As we've talked briefly about the Summer Street Park, the Flora T. Little Park, the cemetery that's there, that's town owned. The town is applying for funds to redo that intersection and maybe redo the street as part of this. And we'll hear more about it on the 11th, I believe. But I'm giving you guys a heads up about that. And one of the things that the university wants to have that area be is the front door into the university. So getting that park, the Summer Street Park in shape, getting other areas in shape, getting the traffic in shape are really important to them. One of the things that I've talked with them about a little bit is the old cemetery right there at the corner of Summer and Pleasant has some significance in the town. It's listed, and I think we should consider as a committee to in fact try to restore, rehabilitate, do whatever they do with cemeteries to make them, spruce them up, I guess, make them more usable. There's some crypts in there. There's a number of things. So one of the things I want to put on the list is the potential for CPA funds to get the stones up, get them clean and all that, to just make that whole area even more appropriate, more engaging for anybody that's traveling through that area. And I did a little bit of work. I went to the West Bridgewater site and looked at what they have done, because they've done a number of, they did the Cochise and they did the old cemetery there. It's phenomenal how well it looks, and everything looks so good. So I took a kind of a wag at looking about how much it might cost to do the restoration. And they had I found they had a unit cost of this is like 4 or 5 years ago, a unit cost for headstones, $400, severely leaning ones, that kind of thing. Misplaced stones around a crypt, they had a larger number. To reset the top stones, they had a cost there. And then they had some other ancillary things. And they actually hired a crypt consultant to come in and talk about the crypts. So under Macris Bridgewater 811.8111, there are 531 headstones listed in that Bridgewater Cemetery. And if we were to clean them and take care of them and figure out how much money it would be, it could run well over $100,000. It could be up to maybe 150, maybe more. The problem is we don't know how much it costs. So what I'm suggesting for consideration and on the agenda for the next meeting would be to use administrative funds to in fact hire a consultant to come in and do an assessment of what we need to do there to make that more pleasing, to restore gravestones, that kind of thing, and the crypts, et cetera, so that we improve the overall appeasement. So not for tonight, but I just want to put that on the agenda for next meeting to actually get an assessment of the what it might cost us to upgrade. I hate the word upgrade, to restore the cemetery, including that stone wall that happened to have been installed by a long distant relative of mine. Anyway, that's my thought. David?
Just a little more recent history on that. Probably 30 or 40 years ago, when my dad was on the historical commission, I thought they got some funding from someone to place the cemetery signs on all the cemeteries in Bridgewater, and they've been repainted once, and I believe Bristol Plymouth did it the last time. I haven't taken a good look at just how badly they are deteriorated. It may be just a matter of cleaning them up and repainting them. So, you know, when you're considering prices, I'll throw that in there so people know what they're looking at.
That's great. In addition to that, any money that CPA spends on a project needs to have a sign left behind. And so actually upgrading that sign, if we do this and the town approved it, that kind of thing, we could also put CPA funding. So
yeah,
that's a great idea. Thank you.
Pat Driscoll.
Do I take this or not?
My understanding is that, and David Moore would know better than I, is that there are some grandchildren.
Yeah, we're close to wrapping up.
Is that true, David?
Grandchildren of who?
Of the Plymouth Pilgrims from 1620.
I don't know that. I've
That's
never really been into the genealogy.
I missed the question.
If the town were established in the 1650s, there would have been people, and that was the only cemetery in the 1650s and 60s, I imagine.
That cemetery was formed in 1717.
1717?
That's when that came into existence.
I see.
But I don't know about the other ones because there's 13 historic cemeteries in Bridgewater.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I believe that was the first, other than some small family graveyards. And I used to use that when I was doing my presentations with the kids, that be careful where you dig in the backyard, the early settlers. And that used to get
I think
them
that's a great project, though.
Yeah,
Carl. Fabulous, wonderful idea.
And I don't think we have to be sponsored by anybody. The CPC committee can do their own application, that kind of thing. But I think it might be worthwhile to have it come from the historical commission or that. But let's talk about that next month.
Yeah.
And Gina, you're muted if you're talking to us.
I'm sorry, my phone rang. I put it on mute so I can pick up on the phone. Cemeteries are under Parks and Recreation.
Okay.
So it should maybe come from them.
I'll let you work with those guys.
I will. Okay, but I think it's a great project. And after that, I think we have other cemeteries in town that could have work on the stones too. But that one is the most visible. Okay. Bill, to answer your question about the grandchildren of the Pilgrims, my sister-in-law's family is the direct descendants of Governor Bradford. They're not grandchildren, maybe great grandchildren, but they are connected to them, to the governor.
Right.
And there are a number of my distant the Washburns that are in that cemetery and other places, but there's connections to the Pilgrims through that family.
Great. Okay. Anything else for potential? Anything brought up by the committee? Okay. committee liaison reports. Who are gonna start with? Bill?
No, well, we did have a meeting of the Historic District Commission 2 weeks ago, and we dealt with two applications for certificate of appropriateness. One for the new cafe that's moving into the D'Angelo's site. And we worked with them on colors and signage. They wanted a mural, which we did not approve. And then the second application dealt with the installation of 3 flagpoles in front of the Academy building. And we denied that application as well because we thought that it would compromise the green space and the line of vision to the portico. It would also have involved removing pavers for the existing flagpole. When we designed the garden area in front of the Academy building, we carefully positioned the flagpole to the right of the building so that it would not be in the line of vision of the center of the garden. And they were going to take that up and put down pavers, which would not match. So we were very concerned that there would be 2 kinds of pavers that would be used. But it's my understanding that they're going to install the flagpoles in another location in town, which probably would be much better because right now there are 4 American flagpoles within very close proximity of each other. So that was a little bit controversial, but we'll see where they're going to be installed in the future.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yep.
Maureen, open space?
Eileen did not tell me whether there was a meeting. I didn't think to ask her. So as far as I know, there was not enough for members for a quorum.
Mhm.
And so I have nothing to report.
Okay, great. Shouldn't say great, you have nothing to report, but you know what I mean. Harry, anything for Concom? Harry, you muted there?
Yeah. Okay. Well, you already know about Hanson's Farm.
Right.
Conservation Commission is being sued in land court,
Ooh.
and it's a no-brainer, actually. A gentleman, landowner down in the far end of South Street, wants to build a house, and he wants to put the house pretty well, partially in the 25-foot no touch. That's one no. And then the town bylaw says that the house has to be 50 feet from the wetlands. That's the second no. And the whole committee voted no, and he's taken it to court, and Jason Wallens will handle it.
Wow, okay. I thought you were gonna say he wants to build onto the pond. Half off a houseboat. Okay, no, I thought that, seriously, I thought that's what you were gonna say. Okay, let's see, 1, 2, 3. Parks and Rec, we kind of hit before on potential projects. A lot is still being planned and worked on. And I'm trying to get them to come up with a 5-year plan. Or at least a couple-year plan instead of to proact instead of react. And that's about for that. Upcoming events, the June 11th Vision to Reality meeting at the Cedar Street Community Center. I just encourage everybody to remember to vote on June 21st for the override vote. an important vote for the town of Bridgewater. Okay, we have no public left. So no public comments. Next meeting date is June 25th. Last week in June. And if nobody has anything else, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So
Motion to
moved.
adjourn.
Okay, we had Harry and Bill. Okay, discussion, I'm not discussing the motion for that. I just want to thank everybody for attending tonight. I thought it was a very good meeting. Okay, Josh, roll call?
Gina,
Yes.
Carlton,
Yes.
Maureen,
Yes.
Harry,
Yes.
Bill.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay, meeting is adjourned at 8:18.
Oh, Gina, I will not be able to attend on the